We've got some breaking news, my friends. The game keycard situation just got even better. If you hate game keycards, there is a good chance that right after this piece of news, you will not have to deal with many of them ever again. So what am I talking about? Why do I say that? Well, 2 days ago, and this flew under the radar because this is not a big studio, this is not a big game, nothing has really been reported on. I've not seen hardly anything outside of the good people at Good Vibes Gaming. Go check out their initial video for this. That's where I figured all this out from. But first, if you look at this tweet here from Jordan at Physical Paradise on December 17th, so just a couple days ago, he said, "I've just had some interesting information. Apparently, Nintendo is now offering smaller cartridge size for Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know any more details other than that, but I think it's potentially great news for physicals on Switch 2. Now, why is that great news, and what does that even mean? Well, back in Nintendo's first release month for the Nintendo Switch 2 and game keycards became this big thing, people were talking about third parties, all of this blew up in their face. Nintendo had a big problem on their hands with the cartridge size. The reason that so many companies will use game keycards is twofold. One, some developers would actually claim that putting it on game keycards would make their games run and process faster, that loading times would be better, that your overall experience would be better on a game keycard because it was downloaded from the internet onto your device directly, not trying to pull information from a cartridge on a Switch 2. And so if you think about that, it makes a lot of sense for Nintendo and other companies to want to have that option to be able to put it on game keycards and also have a physical release to help kind of cater to that physical digital crowd. Now, if you think of the second reason was because a lot of them wanted to do physical stuff. They wanted to put their cartridges out there and make it to where it was a true physical game for the fans, but it was too expensive because Nintendo only allowed for one type of cartridge, a 64 gigabyte cartridge. Even if your game was only 5 gigabytes large, you would have to purchase the 64 gigabyte cartridge to put your game on, and that's expensive. And when you pay all that much money for a gigabyte card that's 60 size more than you need, you're going to end up having to charge the consumer to make some of that money back. And I think a lot of hardcore fans of physical media and of those games specifically would say, sure, charge us more, we'll pay more for it. But the general audience is what you need to think about as a marketer, as a game developer, as anyone in the sphere outside of the hardcore audience. You have to think, if my game is going to be $60 because of a cartridge versus $30 on a game keycard, I'm going with the $30 option. It's just more expensive to do that. And of course, it is a little bit of a gap between 30 and 60. It's probably more somewhere between like 60 and 50 and 40 maybe, but I do still see the reason as to why they put these things on game keycards. It wasn't simply Nintendo being greedy and not giving their consumers options, and it wasn't simply just these different companies not doing what they knew the fans wanted because they're greedy and because of all these horrible things. It was simply logistics. There were some logistical issues with this. And I believe back on the Nintendo Switch, they offered multiple cartridge sizes. It wasn't just a 64 gigabyte cartridge. It was way more than that. They offered in-between sizes, that smaller ones, different ones for people that would wanted to do their physical versions. It was much different at that time, and now for whatever reason, they only gave us 64 gigabyte cartridges as developers for the Switch 2. This seems to be changing because of this guy's statement. And also, it's not just him. It's a studio, a real-life gaming studio has now commented on this, and let's look at that. This first tweet here I'm showing you was from December 17th, and it was also the exact same day as the other tweet I showed you before. They said, "We know many of you would like to have R-Type Dimensions 3 on a full physical cartridge, especially for the special or collector's edition, and we truly appreciate that passion. Unfortunately, because all Nintendo Switch 2 units of a product line must use the same physical format and around 90% of production is planned for standard retail, switching entirely to cartridges would raise manufacturing costs and increase this retail price by at least £15. To avoid this, we chose to release the game on a keycard while continuing to explore alternative solutions for the special and collector's edition. There is still hope for a real cartridge, and we are trying everything. For more information, future updates, check out our blog post. Thank you so much for the support." And this is for a game called R-Type Dimensions 3. I've never heard of this game before, never heard of this studio before, but that was on December 17th, okay? Fast forward to today, December 19th at the time of this recording, just about an hour ago, we see this screenshot. Ion Games, I don't know, this studio says, "We are happy to share a positive update regarding the Nintendo Switch 2 version of R-Type Dimensions 3. We could recalculate production in a way that wasn't possible before. As a result, we've made the following decision. the entire European and US production of R-Type Dimensions 3 for Nintendo Switch 2 will be released on a full cartridge. A little downside to this positive news, the price for the retail and the special edition of the Nintendo Switch 2 version will increase by £10 due to the still higher production costs. However, as a small thank you to our early supporters, all early pre-order customers of the special edition will receive the game on cartridge at the original price they ordered. We'd like to sincerely thank the community for the passionate discussion, feedback, patience over the few days, your enthusiasm, blah blah blah. Great stuff here. And this is actually very indicative of that report being true, of this guy on Twitter who just decided to say that. We don't know how many sources he has, but apparently he had one, and apparently it was right, because we can now see this actually producing tangible results. They were going to release this game on a game key card. It was going to be that physical edition that's actually a digital download because of the size of the cartridge, because it was going to be too expensive. And now they are raising the price by £10, sure, but it's going to be a physical edition. 10 extra bucks is not all that bad in terms of being able to give us a physical game. And so many people actually care about it now, and it's become such a big mainstream topic, such a big point of contention, that a lot of people will see game key cards on a game and not even buy it, not even care, not even try. And oh boy, am I glad I waited to edit this video and just see if there was going to be any more news that popped out, because here we go. NN Games deleted all of their stuff. They deleted everything I just showed you. It's all gone. And replacing that, they give us this message. Correction regarding Nintendo cartridge storage sizes. We would like to issue a correction regarding statements made earlier today in relation to Nintendo cartridge storage sizes. There have been no official announcements or confirmation from Nintendo concerning cartridge storage capacities. Very hard words to say back to back. Any references to specific storage sizes should not be interpreted as official information from Nintendo. At this time, we can only confirm that our upcoming release R-Type Dimensions 3 will be on a physical cartridge. No further technical details regarding cartridge specifications have been officially confirmed. We apologize for any confusion this may have caused and appreciate your understanding. Kind regards, your NN team. This is hilarious. Now, I'm sure NN Games is not happy today, is not happy with any of that, because that means Nintendo came cracking down their door. They busted down the door to NN Games and said, get rid of that crap right now. We have not said any of this officially. This is none of your business. Do not be telling these people anything. And of course, they bent the knee, because you have to bend the knee. This is hilarious. I cannot believe they did this. Nintendo clearly made the right decision here by giving all of these companies more options, by giving us even bigger sizes of cartridges and lower sizes of cartridges to make sure that they could sell out even more. This is just crazy that they are cracking down on these people. They're saying, no, you are not allowed to tell anyone this. We have not made this official, because while they do listen to us, like I'm going to argue later in this video, all of this pre-recorded stuff is still true. While they do listen to us, an important caveat is they don't want us to know that they listen to us. They do in fact listen. They take feedback. They give all of the developers most of the time what they want. But at the same time, they despise the idea of us thinking that we can change their minds. And you know what? To a certain extent, I get that, right? Like, because you don't want them to go out there and clamor every single time something goes poorly because, oh, maybe they'll change their minds, right? You don't want to encourage outlash. You don't want to encourage outrage or backlash. To be honest, that's kind of what they would be doing if they were to say, you know what, we're listening, we're always doing this. Like, they do say that they're listening, but to a certain extent, you have to be like, we're not going to bend the knee to the fans every single time. Even though that's technically what they're going to do, because if we stop buying, they're going to change something. So this is just crazy. That's an update. The rest of the video still stands. Back to it. And of course, if you go all the way to do all this effort and you say, okay, I'm going to manufacture game key cards, people in development right now, some of those games are still going to end up being game key cards. At this time next year, maybe even into early 2026, I think there's a good possibility that we start to see games that probably would have been game key cards actually being physical releases. And there were also a few reports back when the Switch 2 launched that third-party games were not selling all that well, except for Cyberpunk 2077. That was the one game that released on a 64GB physical cartridge without a game key card, and it used all 64 gigabytes of it, but it looked and played gorgeously, and it was perfect. It was a physical solution, right? And also, I like to say this and talk about this every time the game key card situation comes up. This is not a Nintendo exclusive thing. This is not something that just Nintendo has done. We have on the PlayStation 5 all kinds of games that it's not on the actual disc itself. You put in the disc and you have to download it. They just don't advertise it as much. They advertise it a little bit, but it's not on the front and center of the box that it's a game key card. At least Nintendo's being more clear with you and putting on it, hey, this is a game key card. Red flag. If you don't want it, don't get it. I'm working to gear up for the end of the year videos. It's getting to that time where I have to make all of my predictions, the wish list for the next year, and recapping everything for this year. And as I'm going through all the different news that happened throughout the past year, and I'm studying for that, researching for that, I saw a lot of stuff about game key cards that I had forgotten. So many people were talking about it as a huge deal, and a lot of people were just not buying games because of it. And in fact, many people thought that misinformation was actually true, that all of these first-party Nintendo games, that every game was a game key card, and that simply wasn't the case. Especially around the time that Pokemon Pocopia got an extended look at that game's features, about everything about that game. We know it's coming soon. They showed off in a game key card trailer that game specifically. So it makes many of us think, especially with the box art, that this is going to be the first Nintendo published game key card game. And that is very sad for many people because it's like, oh, eventually they're all going to be game key cards, right? I think slow your roll. I think that's not going to be the case. Massive games like Donkey Kong Bonanza, that was only about 8.5 gigabytes. Mario Kart World, that was only about 20 gigabytes. So we're not even close. And Nintendo is a compression master, right? We've said this millions of times on this channel. Nintendo just always finds a way to compress these games down to a lower file size so you don't have to worry about buying as much storage. And of course, with Mario Kart World, that's a huge game. They just always find ways to continue to shrink down their experiences without compromising any sort of graphical fidelity and good experiences for the consumer. And now that this is less of a hot topic, now that we're starting to see a shift and game key cards are probably going to die after this, I am much more willing to say this and have this stance. I think Nintendo actually handled this as well as they possibly could have with all things considered, right? If you look at the past and you say, okay, they didn't tell us a lot of things about the Switch 2. They didn't communicate to us well at all. I agree with that. Their communication was abysmal. It was horrible. They did not do a good job telling us about what these products were going to be, how much they were going to cost, when we could get them, what everything was going to be going down with it. They didn't tell us anything about that. So if you look at the history of it, I can understand how people would be very frustrated at Nintendo. But the problem is, they did advertise this well. They didn't hide it from us. They didn't show it behind our backs, right? They decided to put it right front and center on the box, game keycard. They made up this whole system so people wouldn't be confused. They wanted to make sure that if you didn't want to buy this, or if you were looking for a physical game, if you weren't trying to be confused by Nintendo, they went out of their way to communicate to you very specifically, this is a game keycard. This is not a regular game. It's different, especially for Switch 2 editions, right? As much as I've critiqued those on this channel, Switch 2 editions are very clear. On every single box for Switch 2 editions, they have ugly text at the very bottom of it, and it covers up the art, and I hate it. But you can't argue, it's clear. It's not a Switch 2 original game. It's also on the Nintendo Switch, and you don't have to buy a Switch 2 to get this game. What other company, I ask you, is going to specifically show you a game and say, actually, you don't have to buy the new hardware to get it. Just go ahead and play it on the old hardware. Bye. Do whatever you want. That is insane. Can you imagine if PlayStation ever did anything like that? I cannot imagine. They would never, because they want you to buy their hardware. That's where they make all their money. We can talk all day long about how people will say that Nintendo are greedy dirtbags, that they only care about pulling as much money out of our pockets as possible, that they don't actually care about us, and that every single person in the company feels the same way. I gotta tell you, that's wrong. Sorry, it just is. That's a wrong opinion. It's a bad opinion. It's not even based in any sort of evidence at all. Mario Kart World is one of the only things I can point to and say, I don't truly understand it. I don't understand why that's $80 compared to $70, other than just, we're just gonna get away with it, right? You're gonna buy it anyways, and boy, did we buy it anyways. It's sold like gangbusters, but still, Mario Kart World, I think they're perhaps looking at that game with a different lens. I think maybe they charged just a little bit extra money because they knew they were going to continue to pour development resources into this game across the Switch 2's life. Eventually, I think we will get paid DLC, and that'll be a different conversation altogether, but up until this point, we have received free updates constantly over the past 6 months of this game's release, and we have gotten some pretty cool content, some pretty cool adjustments. Even with the intermission stuff that just happened recently, I made a video about that. They completely changed the track layout for some of these intermissions. They changed the actual identity of these tracks. The developers went back into the game, changed code, and made it to where they added all of these different things to make intermissions more enjoyable. That is not something I would have ever expected Nintendo to do. That's sunken development costs. That's stuff that they spent money on and changed that they are not charging for, that they are not getting any sort of cash back from. Perhaps they are taking somewhat of a Splatoon route with this, where they're going to continue to update it over the life cycle of this game, that it's going to be more and more long, that we're going to have even more experiences with this game that are going to be free of charge. I think we're looking at games like Clair Obscur, right? That game just gave us a bunch of free DLC. You look at Stardew Valley, free DLC. Silksong now, free DLC. And those are some of the most popular games of the year. They're giving us free content. Nintendo will always charge when they can, trust me. Welcome Tour was $5, right? $10. That was probably not the best purchase, but it was still probably worth that much money. If you really break it down, it's like, okay, I wish they hadn't. It should have been a pack-in, but they did charge us the proper amount for however much that game was worth to you. And in my opinion, it's a little bit different than a Wii Sports. Wii Sport was for everybody, right? All those games, everyone played them. Hardcore gamers got a little bit of fun out of it. It was family-friendly fun. It was fun for grandma. It was fun for every single type of person. They got a little bit out of it no matter what, so everyone was going to enjoy it. But if you look at something like Welcome Tour, and maybe this is me having too much of a business hat on here, maybe I'm being a little bit too greedy. If you look at something with Welcome Tour, like, I didn't care too much about it. I played through a vast majority of it. I read through a lot of it, but I didn't really care too much. Most of what I saw that was cool was in articles, right? Most people would say this was the coolest stuff from that game, and that's all I care about. For the people who actually genuinely did care, wanted to 100% the game, wanted to see what the console was capable of, those people are going to end up getting their money's worth, if that makes sense. So if it was free, the people who didn't care about it were never going to try it. Maybe they'd fiddle around with it for a few minutes, but that's it. You're not getting anything out of that software, and you paid nothing for it, so it's fine. If you don't care about it anyways, then don't buy it, and it's not gonna kill Nintendo, right? But for the people who do care, you're gonna get some money out of it. So why not charge a little bit of money for it if it's already worth that much? I don't know. Maybe that's greedy, maybe that's a bad opinion, but that's just me. The big difference, in my opinion, between Nintendo right now, Nintendo during the Nintendo Switch generation, versus them in the early Wii U days to late Wii days, is that they did not listen. They did not take feedback into consideration. They did not care what they did. Once they saw all that cash rolling from the Wii, they knew they couldn't fight the fight of the console war. They decided to do their own thing, and if they decided to do their own thing, that meant, why would we listen to anyone? Why would we take critique or feedback? What we have is all right in this building, right? We have the best ideas here. The Wii U flopped, and they learned. They need to take some lessons from other companies. They need to take some lessons, some feedback from the consumers that are telling them exactly how to fix their products, but telling them exactly why they're not wanting to buy them anymore and what would make them want to buy it. Learning those lessons, taking that feedback, listening, adjusting, maybe not even doing it right from the start, and people are mad at them for not doing it from the start, but eventually changing, eventually going back and saying, you know what? You guys were right on this. We were wrong. That's what this says. We were wrong. That's literally what it says. They are changing how the cartridges system work. And they were probably making plenty of money from people who were doing physical cartridges that way. Because if you have a 5GB game and you're paying for 64GB cartridges from Nintendo, you are making money. But what I think they're coming to realize once more, that I think they're listening to feedback on, is, wow, actually it is important to have our consumers actually like to buy products from us and to have a good reputation amongst developers, amongst fans, amongst everyone. How can we do that? Well, some developers are saying, we'd love to put our games on physical, we'd love to not do game key cards. People are mad at game key cards, but we can't because it's too expensive. And so what did Nintendo do? They gave them smaller cartridge size. They gave them so much more. It's incredible to see the Nintendo company of today adjusting, being better, learning from their mistakes, and adapting. That is something that a lot of people are going to disagree with me on, but I'm telling you, it's what they're doing. If you really look closely, it's what they're doing. They care about us. They do. They care about the opinion of others. They want to do better. So that was my rant when I should have been making a totally different video preparing for the end of year stuff, but I just had to hop on here and tell you the news because all I saw was that Good Vibes Gaming video and I was like, oh my gosh, this is huge. Game key cards are essentially dead now. Like, most people are not going to use them now. So if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to know exactly when my videos release, and comment down below letting me know your thoughts on the game key card situation, on everything I just said. Do you have a different opinion than me? What's going on in your mind? I'd love to know. Consider joining my membership program, a few bucks a month, just to get early access to all of my videos and a few other perks to support me as a content creator. Make sure you click on the left side of your screen to see my review covering Kirby Air Riders, and click on the right side of your screen to see my video talking about a potential Luigi's Mansion 4, breaking down what that all could be. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. Make sure you have yourself a wonderful day. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I will see you all in the next video.